There are two major aspects to training that pretty much every single gym goer neglects, and that will definitely lead to all kinds of imbalances, weaknesses, and injuries you will have to suffer through. These two things are absurdly important, yet I don't see anyone talking about it. And if you want to learn how to produce any acceptable amount of force and go through advanced movements that require a lot of strength, but most importantly, a lot of control, you will definitely need to work on those two. So if you're ready, let's check them out. If you want to generate any sort of force, you will have to work through the ground and through your feet, specifically up your legs and through your entire body to maximize this process. And one group of people that has that down perfectly are martial artists, because they understand the concept of generating force and moving up through your feet all the way up to, if you want to throw a kick, through your leg or through your arm. But that sort of force generation is not just important for fighting, it is also important for jumping and for running and all kinds of movement patterns that humans go through all the time. And the older you become, the more your already weak feet become even weaker, and that will lead to even more injuries, because not only are your feet your first point of contact when it comes to the floor, but they're also a major part of stabilizing your body. Now, you can test out both the stabilization as well as the weakness in your feet by just elevating onto your tiptoes and trying to hold this position for longer periods, especially standing on a single foot. Most people already struggle with that immensely, but there's actually just a handful of exercises you need to do to never have to think about that again. Having touched on the first one, all you need to do is just elevate one foot, place it wherever you want to, and stand on the other one for longer and longer and longer periods of time. For one, you're going to start working on your balance automatically, not just balancing throughout your foot, but also most importantly throughout your core, and of course be switching it up left side, right side, because once again your core is as important when it comes to stabilization as is your foot musculature and every tendon and ligament surrounding your ankle. This is an exercise you can pretty much do anywhere at any time, even if you're at home cooking, sitting around just watching TV. Get up, stand on one foot and just hold this position. And the second bodyweight exercise you can use to start working on this can be lunges, but instead of placing our entire foot on the floor, we're just gonna work on our toes, which is going to force us to activate pretty much all of our foot musculature, especially in the movement reversal. And switching to the other foot, we're gonna add a little bit of hip flexor strength by elevating our knee forward, by just putting our toes on the floor, holding like so, push backwards. And if you truly want to get all of the benefits, start out with both feet on your tiptoes. Move forward and reverse, move forward and reverse. Now we have combined stabilization with foot musculature, and we've done so in a way that is directly correlated to how people usually move. And over time, once you become better at working like that, you can just as easily add some resistance and do this exercise with walking lunges, just on our tiptoes, and another one on our toes, and another one, giving us the benefit on working on one of the most important things when it comes to longevity: leg strength and leg coordination. Because the lunge's unilateral movement pattern will help us start working left side, right side asymmetrically and combine our core strength, our leg strength, and our toe strength, because we are working on our toes and not on flat feet, all together into one single exercise. And trust me, I am not exaggerating either the importance of those or the danger of not working on them. Now, the second thing when it comes to producing massive amounts of strength and force throughout your body is rotation, which once again is perfectly demonstrated in martial arts, because if we go back to that again, when we want to throw a punch or a kick, we don't just stand like so and use our arms, because our arms don't have the necessary strength to produce enough force for a good punch. We start out throughout our toes, through our foot, and most importantly through rotation in our hips and upper body to generate enough force to throw a real punch. And the same thing goes for kicks. We have a lot of rotation moving through our toes and our feet, throughout our hips, rotating, and only then, once we've already produced enough rotational force, we finish that kick with an extension. And understanding how this works is not just important for martial arts, but as we said, for a lot of things that we usually do as normal people. Moving us to the second very dangerous problem, that people have shit spinal mobility, and even more so shittier spinal rotational mobility. Be it for lack of working on their mobility, be it for lack of working on their core. And when we talk about core, we don't just need our abs, we're also talking about our spinal erectors, since our abs are only necessary for flexion, lateral flexion, and stabilization, while we need our spinal erectors to go back into extension. And combining the movement through those is how we get full mobility in our spine. Now, since this is a more complex problem, because rotation through our spine also forces us into rotation throughout our hips, which also a lot of people struggle with, so we will start and put those together through multiple exercise progression. Now, starting at the lowest beginner level, just lay down on the ground, place both feet flat, and all you need to do is move through internal and external hip rotation into one direction, and then external and internal hip rotation in the other direction, combining asymmetrical rotational movement for our hips, already an amazing exercise by itself. And we're getting the tiniest bit of rotation throughout our spine, specifically our lumbar spine, moving up towards our thoracic spine. Open up your arms, go through movements like so. This can help you release a lot of tension. And if you struggle with lumbar pain, for instance, this is a great way to slowly release it with low impact movement patterns. Once we move up in difficulty, we're gonna include a lot more core strength as well. Pull those knees in, open your arms sideways, and go through rotations like so. All the way to the left side, go through your full range of motion, which means that while your shoulders are flat on the ground, you can move laterally as far as you can. Once you notice your shoulders are leaving the floor, that is too far, step back a little bit, and over time increase your range of motion until you can bring both legs all the way down on one side and all the way down on the other side. Moving us to the next level, doing the same thing with extended legs. Now we have an insane inclusion of our obliques, which are necessary to bring our legs back into this upward movement. And the same thing goes for the other direction. Keep both shoulders on the floor and move through a very long rotation. This way we can start building the bare minimum of rotational strength throughout our core until we're strong enough to advance to more intense exercises. Now, there are two tools we can use that are gonna make this so much easier. And the very first one is any sort of cable machine. Start with the minimum amount of resistance until you get used to the movement pattern so you don't hurt yourself, because we're working through long movements in our spine. Point both feet forward, keep your legs shoulder width apart, and start rotating into this complete backwards rotation all the way as far as you can without your feet turning sideways. Keep your arms extended and slow, controlled movement, so we have as much core inclusion as we can until we're parallel to the wall in front of us, and then lengthening that movement even more into the other direction as far as we can, once again without our feet turning sideways, before we go into the negative movement pattern as slowly as we did with the positive one, all the way back for the longest possible range of motion. Now we have activated pretty much every single muscle fiber surrounding our core, including our spinal erectors, adding the same thing for rotations from the bottom to the top, as well as rotations from the top to the bottom. So we add more and more movement patterns that we usually go through in our day-to-day life. And the two major aspects that make this amazing when it comes to the cable machine is, number one, we can work through progressive overload super easy. And the second thing, unlike our next method, is that there is a lot of stabilization already coming from the machine we are using. So this in turn will take off some of the pressure of this movement from our spine and our core until we once again get strong enough, stable enough, and safe enough in those movement patterns to advance to the next method. And that is where the true fun begins, because with kettlebells you can be super creative throughout the movement patterns you choose and just invent movement patterns that you stitch together in a way that you enjoy the most. First, we're going to go through the same movement patterns with the kettlebell, which is a total change to the cable machine, because now we have that massive amount of strength required not only in our arms or shoulders, but even more strength throughout our core, so we do not fall sideways like so. You can start with the weight close to your chest, go through rotations to the left and to the right, and over time you should be strong enough to extend your arms, and I mean strong enough in your core to move laterally like so, left side or right side, and this is going to put a lot more pressure on your core musculature, especially on your spinal erectors, which is why we did all of this preliminary work from the bottom to the top, like so, and rotations from the top to the bottom, which is pretty much the same thing. And then we can add two more aspects to our training: the slow movements for our slow twitch muscle fibers, and the explosive movements for our fast twitch muscle fibers, and for building more safety in explosive movements. And those rotations, if you are a martial artist, not only have you done this before, but this will help you immensely when it comes to force generation, those explosive movement patterns, and stopping yourself using your own strength instead of letting the momentum carry you throughout this movement. Which means that even when we work explosively, we're not letting the weight do the work, we are doing it with our own strength. And this brings us to the main course of this workout, because now that we have the necessary stability and strength, what you have to do is move through more and more complex asymmetrical movement patterns and increase your range of motion of those movements. Then further you advance, adding more and more movements throughout the entire set until you feel totally comfortable rotating into all directions with increasing resistance and with a lot of control, because you are confusing the body with new movements that it doesn't have experience with, and adding resistance to those movements as well. And that is going to make you not only an absolute core beast, but also help you work on full body control and coordination, and are a super important aspect when it comes to longevity in general. Now, those are just a handful of rotational exercises. There is a metric shit ton of those out there, so if you need more of those, just let me know. But for now, keep it as simple as possible. Move through a handful of those exercises and start adding more and more as you start progressing. And please be careful, because we do not play around when it comes to spinal mobility and spinal injuries. Those are, by definition, the opposite of fun. As always, I hope this was helpful. If you liked the video, like the video, and come on, join us. We do stuff like that almost every single day, which means that I will see you tomorrow. So until then, Captain Cairo, peace out.